Good evening, everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and is posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2. Please note, customers of CenturyLink and Cox Communications can view this program in high definition on Channel 1002 and in standard definition on Channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcasted on KCLV and the web the Saturday of the meeting at 10 a.m., Monday at midnight, the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Chair DeSalvio.
Present.
Vice Chair Schlottman.
Present.
Commissioner Cherry.
Present.
Commissioner Toussaint.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Rogan.
Present.
Commissioner Chadha.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. To the public, I call your attention to the information provided in your agenda concerning our actions and the appeals and review process if appropriate. Please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, for the second page of the agenda contains the rules of conduct. We appreciate your adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. Next agenda item would be public comment. Does anybody from the public wish to make a comment on anything that pertains to the action items? Seeing none, I'll close the public here. Anything, Bob? Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, for the possible action to approve the final minutes of the Planning Commission meeting for April 14, 2014. Commissioner Schlottman.
Move to approve April 14, 2020 Planning Commission minutes.
Okay, you've all heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, before we proceed, can we really quickly, just for the audience that may be viewing, just review how we're doing public comment today, since we are still doing the remote public comment, just so that there's no questions about that as we get to our public hearing items.
Okay, so what we're doing is I'm going to take public comment after the presentation's done. I'll open it up to public comment on the agenda items. At that time, anybody that's present will go first, and then at that time, when that's done, I'll yield to the city attorney, and he will then read if anybody had chimed in online to leave a comment on whatever agenda item that we would be on at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then I would just also note, if we get any public comments that are received on an item after that item has been heard, those comments will be added to the record. They will not be read. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, housekeeping for possible action for the Planning Commission staff and/or applicant wish to be stricken or held in abeyance to a further meeting may be brought forward and acted upon at this time. So we'll move on to the housekeeping items. Are there any items that the commissioners or staff wishes to?
Mr. Chairman, we have some housekeeping items. The applicant wishes to obey item number 32 to the July 14th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. This is the second abeyance request for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioners? Seeing none, Commissioner Schlottman, entertain a motion.
Yes, Chairman, I would make a motion to hold item 32 until the July 14, 2020 Planning Commission hearing.
Thank you. All heard the motion. Please cast your vote.
Commissioner Chadha.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm sorry, aye.
Thank you.
And that motion carries. Okay, now we will move on to consent items. I would entertain a motion to approve items 7 through 9. However, I have on item 9, I'll turn to Eric. I have an amend number 7 and delete number 8. Would you like to read that into the record, please?
Yes, Chairman. Staff would like to amend item number 9, condition number 7, to read, prior to the submittal of civil plans, provide a letter from the master developer or master developer's engineer to the sanitary sewer planning section of the Department of Public Works, documenting how the total number of proposed residential units of parcels 2.08, 2.09, and 2.10 will connect to the public sewers in Sky Canyon, Park Drive, and Sky Village Road, and will not exceed the maximum number of units identified in the Sky Canyon West Wastewater Master Plan update dated July 2019 at each point of connection. Additionally, we'd like to delete item number 9, condition number 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant representative here for that agenda item? If so, please come forward, state your name for the record, and just let me know if you accept that.
Kevin Bross, and we do accept that.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve items 7 through 9.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve consent items 7 through 9 with amended conditions on number 9, as
You've
read
heard-
into the record.
You've heard the vote. Please cast. And that motion carries. All right.
Mr. Chairman, those 3 items on consent, items 7, 8, and 9, are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 7 days.
Thank you. Next, we're moving on to one motion, one vote. The following are items that may be considered in one motion, one vote that are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearing and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an applicant or a member of the public or a member of the planning commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by the staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. So go on to read these items. It's lengthy, so bear with me. Related items 10 and 11, GPA 78402 for the possible action on a request for a general plan amendment from RNP Rural Neighborhood Preservation to medium-density residential on the north and south side of La Marche Avenue and Schumber Road. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. ZON 78403 for the possible action on a request for rezoning from RE residential estates to R3 medium-density residential. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Related items 12 and 13, GPA 78418 for the possible action on a request from a general plan amendment from service commercial to medium-low density on the west side of James Bilbray Drive and Smoke Ranch Road. Ward 5, staff recommends approval. ZON 78419 for the possible action on a request for a rezoning from PR professional office parking to RCL single-family compact lot. Ward 5, staff recommends approval. Related items 14 through 16. MOD 78606 for the possible action on a request for a major modification of the approved Sunstone Development Agreement to establish the design of the active adult park on the northeast corner of Log Cabin Way and Sky Point Drive. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. SUP 78437 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a special use permit for a 5,090 square foot restaurant with alcohol use with 1,125 square foot of outdoor seating. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. SDR 78438 for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 16,381 square foot community center and a 500 square foot guard building. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Related items 17 through 19, SCD 78256 for the possible action on a request for a Summerlin majored deviation to allow 14-foot tall walls where 10-foot is allowed and 8-foot tall retaining walls where 4-foot is allowed at the northwest corner of Far Hills Avenue and Fox Hills Drive, Ward 2. Staff recommends approval. VAC 78597 for the possible action on a request for a petition to vacate public sewer easements generally located on the north side of Far Hills Drive, west of Fox Hills Drive, Ward 2. Staff recommends approval. TMP 78257 for the possible action on a request for a tentative map for a 91-lot single-family residential subdivision in Ward 2. Staff recommends approval. VAR, item number 20, VAR 78544, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow an existing 6-foot-tall solid block wall gate in front yard where 5 feet with 2 feet solid base is allowed at 1806 West Oakey Boulevard. Staff recommends approval. Related items 21 through 22, SUP 78582, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed car wash full-service auto detailing use on the east side of Pecos Road, south of Washington Avenue, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. SDR, item 22, SDR 78583, for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 6,131 square foot car wash development. Staff recommends approval, Ward 3. Item number 23, SUP 78499, for a possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 576 square foot tattoo parlor body piercing studio use at 1000 South 3rd Street, Suite B, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 24, SUP 78537, for the possible action on request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,600 square foot tavern limited establishment use with a 5,400 square foot courtyard at 1500 South Main Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 25, SUP 78359, for a proposed action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,495 square foot beer wine cooler on sale establishment use with a waiver to allow a 138-foot distance separation from a city park where 400 feet is required at 7575 Norman Rockwell Lane, Suite 140. Staff recommends approval, Ward 6. Item number 26, SDR 78589, applicant for a possible action on request for a site development plan review for a proposed 441-unit hotel with waivers of Symphony Park design standards at the southeast corner of Symphony Park Avenue and Grand Central Parkway, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Item number 27, MSP 78543, for a possible action on request for a major amendment to a previous approved master sign plan for an approved commercial recreation amusement indoor and outdoor development at the southwest corner of Sirius Avenue and Rancho Drive, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Item number 28, VAC 78581, for the possible action on a request for a petition to vacate 30-foot public drainage and a public sewer easement located at the eastern property boundaries adjacent to Carriage Hill Drive, Ward 2. Staff recommends approval. And here you go, I'm out of breath. All right.
Through the chair, if I may, on item number 23, I live within the notification area. Doesn't affect me any greater or lesser. I will be voting on it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, on item 23, I own an urban lounge within the notification area, but it's not going to affect me any greater or lesser as it's a different business type.
Does anybody wish to be heard on these items? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Byron, any?
We do not have any comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve items, the one motion, one vote items number 10 through 28.
You've all heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 10 through 13, item 26 and 27 will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on June 17th, 2020. Items 14 through 25 and item 28 are final action this evening unless appealed to the City Clerk's office within 10 days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jennifer Lazovich, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. I just wanted to check again. It's my understanding, that item 27 would be final action. It is the master sign plan for Area 15.
I'm looking at my staff person. We'll verify, and if we need to make a clarification, we'll make that before the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to public hearing items. Related items 29 and 30, abeyance re-notification VAR 78439 for a possible action on a request for a variance to allow 2 wall signs, which are 54 and 74 square feet, where 50 square feet is the maximum area allowed, to allow 3 wall signs that do not face the street frontage, where 1 sign facing the street frontage is allowed, and to allow a 12-foot tall, 193 square foot monument sign, where 8 feet and 60 square feet are the maximum allowed, at 8791 Alta Drive, Ward 2. Staff recommends denial. On item number 30, abeyance re-notification MSP 78440, for the possible action on a request for a master sign plan for an approval multifamily residential development, Ward 2. Staff recommends denial. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by proposing signage that exceeds the maximum height, sign area, and quantities allowed under Title 19.06 Development Standards. Staff recommends denial of both applications. Please note that this project was obeyed and re-notified due to an error in the original public hearing notification list. All required notifications have since been made in accordance with NRS requirements. Please note that there are additional letters of protest and support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Tony Celeste, address 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, developer, and property owner, Kalita Development. As you can see from the overhead here, the property is about 15 acres. It was part of a once larger Boca Park plan that included the 8 acres on the hard corner of Rampart and Alta. About 2 years ago, around maybe July of 2017, this body, Planning Commission, recommended approval of this project, and ultimately by City Council through a revision or amendment to the development standards in Boca Park. What was approved was a 359-unit luxury multi-family development. If you've been by the site recently, you can see, and you can see from the pictures in your backup, that construction is ongoing and the site is being developed. As part of those revisions or amendment to the development standards, we were required to come in with a master sign plan, and so that is now the application before you. What we have proposed are essentially 4 signs on the site. The first sign I will discuss is the freestanding sign. It is located right at the main entrance of Alta there. As you might recall during the approval of this, the entrance is actually farther to the west, closer to the Rampart-Alta intersection. As part of our development and improvement plans, we relocated that driveway to line up with the existing stoplight there and across from Tivoli Village. So that is the reason for the placement of the sign right at our main entryway. It is compatible because it is facing the right-of-way across the street from Tivoli. The sign you can see right here is only going to be about 12 feet in height. The reason for the waiver is with respect to the square footage. The reason we're exceeding the square footage is not because of the height. Again, it's only 12 feet, but you can see because of the length of the sign, it's spelling out the development name, Elysian, and we have kind of a fancy flared eye there, and that is with respect to sign 1. The next 2 signs I'll cover are signs 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are building signs. They're wall signs. These signs, you can see from the site plan right here, are located on elevation of building 1 and the parking garage of right here, which is building or sign 4. You can see right here is the elevation of each of these signs. What's important to note about these signs is they are obviously facing west, away from any residential. They are facing the undeveloped commercial. They're facing towards Rampart Boulevard. Those signs, in fact, one of them is I believe less than what would be otherwise allowed, and the other square foot with respect to square footage, and the other sign is slightly over the square footage on that one. And then the final sign is with respect to sign 3. You can see sign 3 is located along our eastern elevation here. What's important to note here is that while the residential is to the east, it's about 190 feet to the east. In between this sign and the residential is an existing 125-foot berm that has lush landscaping. That was one of the requirements of the approved development guidelines, that we have to maintain, keep that. That's actually a no-build zone area, so that is being maintained. Another important element about this sign is that it is at grade level, so it is, bermed up. You will not be able to see it. And finally, one of the other important notes about the sign is that it actually faces internal or west towards the development. So for multiple reasons, you will not, residents to the east will not be able to see that. From the inception of this project, we have been working with our neighbors, in particular, the Tuscany North HOA. They reached out to Councilwoman Seaman's office about this project. Through her office, we have been providing them all the backup and details with respect to this. My understanding is that they have actually submitted a letter in support of this and do know about this sign package. So with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this agenda item?
Mr. Chair, we have several online comments.
Okay, seeing none in the audience, I'll close the audience one and turn it over to the city attorney.
The first comment is from Thomas Shebeck of 8628 Grand Bank Drive. He says, "I strongly oppose a request for variance. Codes and regulations are put into place to apply to everyone as well as all businesses. Asking for a variance of those is only acceptable in the special case where the code or regulation imposes a severe hardship upon the individual or company. If enforced, I see absolutely no hardship for this group to meet the code as written." Second comment is from Paul Turner. He lives at 8628 High Acre Drive. "The dramatic increase in size of the monument sign facing Alta Drive will be distracting to motorists on Alta and distract from the established appearance of Tivoli across the street. Each of the other sign size increases will detract from the aesthetics of the apartments being constructed and the adjacent properties, including West Mesa Estates, as residences and residential neighborhoods." The third comment is from Frank Johnson of 608 Ampere Lane. He says that signage that exceeds the limitations set forth by code are not necessary. This project is already an eyesore for the surrounding area. The area needs more beauty and aesthetics, not commercial signage. I cannot think of any valid justification for a variance in this matter. And the final comment is from Sheila Johnson of 608 Ampere Lane, who just opposes the project and all related applications.
Thank you. Do you have any further
I
comments?
don't have any other additional comments.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to the Planning Commission. Commissioner?
Chairman, I will defer to other comments before I delve into my own.
Does anybody else have any comments? I'm seeing none.
Okay, I do note that the comments that we received from our online viewers, and I am taking them into consideration. However, that being said, I don't think that the variance would adversely affect the surrounding properties. I think that this development is actually something that is needed in that area. I think the project is going to be a beautiful project in line with Tivoli in the northeast, Queens Ridge Towers on the southwest, and the golf course, of course, on the northwest. I think that the signage is in harmony with the intent and the purpose of the ordinance, and with that, I would like to move to approve VAR 78439.
Okay, you've all heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Moving on to item number 30, I would also like to move to approve MSP 78440.
You've all heard the motion. Please cast your vote. Commissioner Williams? There you go. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. And then if I may, if we go back to item 27, I have been able to verify that that actually was requested to be final action this evening. So on item 27, that's final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Could we also make a clarification on item number 19? Apparently, the city clerk indicated that the planning director said that it was final unless appealed within 10 days. It should be final action unless appealed within 7 days. On number 19.
And I read it as 10 days, because that's what my notes say, but you're right. Since it was final action, it can be final unless appealed in 7 days.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 31, abeyance SUP 78301 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 8,391 square foot marijuana dispensary use at 5991 West Cheyenne Avenue, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. May I have the staff report, please?
Through the chair, if I could quickly interject, I'll be abstaining from this item. My family and I are in the cannabis industry.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Slotman, would you like to make a comment?
I just will make a disclosure that I've worked on a lot of these facilities in the past, and I have always voted on them. I have never worked with this individual, and I'll be voting on this matter.
And thank you for that disclosure. Please state your name for the record, sir.
Good evening. Ryan Arnold here tonight representing the applicant. I got to say first, I've never been so happy to be here. It's been a couple months since I've been down here, so I'm thrilled to see all of you. Strange times. So I'll jump in here. As staff indicated, we are here tonight for a dispensary located at 5991 West Cheyenne. It's basically the southeast corner of Cheyenne and Jones. There's an existing structure there. It's roughly 16,000 square feet. Our intent is to use the front 8,000 for the dispensary, which, give you an idea how we would use that, about 3,800 square foot of that would be floor space, and the rest back of house and whatnot. The second back half of the building, the second 8,000 square foot, would be intended to be our home for our executive offices. We have operations currently in Mesquite and Wendover. The principals are all homegrown here and live in the Valley, and their intent is to have their executive offices here in the Valley. A couple facts, I guess, if you will, about the facility itself. Some of the typical concerns with these is security, crime, that kind of stuff. This facility, like all of their others, will have 24/7 monitoring, a very robust camera system, lighting package, as well as on-site security monitoring the place. There's also a concern of smell with these locations, and I can tell you with this property, or this particular applicant, all of their product will come in prepackaged. So there is no chance and no concern of there ever being an odor. I know there are some facilities or dispensaries here in the Valley that actually do packaging on site, and so you do get that smell. That will not be the case here. I think it's important to note that the clientele that we see at our existing operations, we're talking mid-40s, and they skew right down the middle, male and female. To that point, our principals have really gone out of their way, I think, to try and set the atmosphere on the interior as well as the exterior, but especially on the interior. As you can see here, this is our Mesquite property. You know, we try to liken it to somewhat of a high-end electronics store. You know, again, knowing who our clientele is, we want them to feel comfortable, safe, and we feel we reflect that in our layouts. Next, I'll touch on just so you have a quick glance of the site plan. Again, Jones, Cheyenne, existing facility, not a whole lot being changed because we've got the parking we need and whatnot. When we go to the elevations, we can touch on signage. You know, we all know here that the signage is regulated quite heavily by the city as well as the state. And as you can see, we try to keep it as tasteful as possible. We're doing our best to blend. Those that want to find us are going to know where we're at. Next thing is, before I move on, we wouldn't have made it this far if we didn't meet all the separations, so I'll just do that for the record. We hit all of our required separations for both state and city. And so, again, just want to put that on the record. Next is jobs. How many people are we going to employ here? At the front of the operation, that is the dispensary itself, we're looking at 40 plus. And again, I wanted, in times like these, I want folks to understand that what level of jobs we're talking about here. We're talking starting at 26,000 a year, going up to 80, and there's room for development. Our goal here would be to hold a job fair and try to hire locally. We want the community to be a part of this thing. And then, speaking of back of house, if you will, the executive offices, we need positions there. So the same thing goes with the executive offices. So next, I want to touch on our history here. When we first decided on this location, we sat with the commissioner that represents, the councilman that represents the area, and shared our intentions. And the first thing he said was, well, I need you to go out in the neighborhood. I need you to speak with the neighborhood and find some support. So we had our first neighborhood meeting. It was back, I believe, in February. And the way I like to describe these, I've done a number of these over the years, very familiar with the fears that surround this type of use. You usually have three types. You've got those that are in support, you've got those that are concerned, have lots of questions, still fearful, and we notice that if we can have conversations with them, we can usually allay those fears and bring them around. And then the third type are those that are just absolutely opposed to this type of use. And we do our best to answer every question and to show what our intentions are with the neighborhood. So after that meeting, we actually had scheduled a follow-up neighborhood meeting on April 8th. And then all the COVID stuff hit. And the Clark County Library District canceled our meeting. And so we were then supposed to be on your last Planning Commission hearing. We didn't feel right coming before you without having some sort of communication with the neighborhood once again. In these times, we weren't quite sure at the moment what to do. So what we did come up with was we did a mailer. We did an 8.5 by 11 mailer, both sides. What we tried to do is to address all of the concerns that came up at our first meeting, as well as give some facts about our organization, how we operate, and just try to hit them with as much information as we could. The important part here is that we also set up a email address and a phone number. So if they had questions, they could call in, reach out to us, and we could get back to them. To that point, we did have some action on there, and I'd like to submit these. With the phone line, we had 6 in support, 3 oppose, and with the emails, we had 4 in support and 2 oppose. All the communication is transcribed here, so I'll hand that in. So again, this isn't the way we'd like to do it. We would have preferred to have had a meeting and sat down with as many folks as possible, but this is what we're left with. So we're doing our best to try and communicate with the neighborhood. The other thing that let me go back to some of the questions that came up during that meeting, our first meeting. And some of the stuff I've already addressed, but I'll touch on it again. Safety, security, crime. Again, we have a very robust security package. The last thing we want to do is create an environment that's going to scare away our patrons, knowing who they are. The other thing that came up that we thought was a bit unique was pedestrian safety. We understand that there's a number of assisted living facilities in the area, and the big complaint we were getting was that, look, Cheyenne and Jones is already so busy that they're having trouble crossing the intersection. So I reached out to NDOT and to the city traffic engineer and said, hey, this is what's going on. And guess what? NDOT had just conducted and finished the study for pedestrian safety at that intersection. And they are currently compiling, the results as well as the recommendations on how to improve the area. So that's forthcoming. In the meantime, I talked to the city traffic engineer and said, hey, is there anything we can do with the crosswalks? Can we extend the time? She said, absolutely. She looked at it, and so that supposedly has happened. So again, we're trying to do what we can here. I've touched on smell, not an issue here. Advertising signage, I touched on that. And then there were a few neighbors that mentioned a vacant lot in the area that has been receiving all sorts of illegal dumping over the years, and is just a mess. So that came up because we shared with these folks that in the municipalities where we already do business, we do a lot of charity work. So we took it upon ourselves to go out and start the process of cleaning up this lot. And as of yesterday, I know we hauled away a ton of stuff. There's still more phases, more work to do. But again, this is us trying to show, hey, we do care. We want to be good neighbors. So that process has already taken place. So the other thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention here is that question 2. Question 2 is the law that passed here in the state that allows for recreational sales. We feel it's important to get a sense of what kind of neighborhood we're dealing with. So we polled what the results were for question 2 in the area. It was a 63% approval. So I think the public has spoken, and I'm not using that as a hammer here, I'm just using that as additional information. We feel we've found the right location. If you look at the proximity to residential, you look at the intersection, they all make sense. And then the last thing I want to share with you all is that when we entered the 2 other jurisdictions, we encountered some hurdles. We encountered a lot of the known fears around this type of use. And it was a struggle to get those approvals. Yet, we've been operating for some time in both those jurisdictions, and we've developed really strong relationships. We've proven ourselves. We've done what we said we would do. And to that point, we reached out to our friends and said, hey, help us out here. And so what I've got are 7 letters from both mayors in Wendover and Mesquite, as well as city council members in both locations, as well as a letter from the Chamber of Commerce in Mesquite. Just, again, touching on our character and who we are, and I can't think of a better way to prove who my clients are. So I'd like to submit this. I don't know, I submitted this to planning last week. Hopefully that made its way around. And then I'd like to go ahead and conclude by bringing up one of my principles, just to touch on the company and the rest of the organization, just to give you a feel for who these folks are. So, Brandon?
Thank you. Brandon Allison, 6238 Island Palm Avenue. I am one of the founding members of Deep Roots Harvest, and we got our name Deep Roots because most of the members of the company are native Nevadans. We're not a big conglomerate, we're not a big company that you read about a lot, that's taking over a lot of this business. We're homegrown, we're locals. Some of our other partners include Gary and Roger Prim. You're probably familiar with the Prim name, the developers of the casinos at State Line and the developers of the New York Casino in conjunction with MGM Resorts. So it's just the type of pedigree. We're all business people. I've been here in Las Vegas for 30 years. I'm a native Nevadan, been running various businesses for my whole life. So when we got into this business, we took a little bit of a different approach. And it's a business approach, and we've put together a fantastic team and a fantastic business. We're super proud of what we've been able to do. We want to be a good member of the community, and I know that gets thrown around a lot, but in our case, it's very true. And as Ryan mentioned, we've proved it. And if you look at the comments that came from Wendover and Mesquite, you'll see the type of things that we've done. And, we did have an uphill battle when we first went into these locations. And it was really rewarding after a couple of years of operating that almost all the people who were against us in the beginning came to us and said, you know what? We were dead wrong about you guys. You guys have been a real positive, attribute to the community whenever we've needed something. You guys have been there for us. The police department have had fantastic comments. I encourage anybody to reach out to the police departments. Not that they're jumping and shouting, in favor of cannabis, but as far as the way that we run our operation and the way that we communicate and interface with them, they've been extremely complimentary. So again, we want to do the same thing here with this location. We think we can be a real positive attribute to the community. As Ryan said, we've already started with some projects in the area, and I think creating the jobs in the community, especially right now, we're going to create good jobs. We're going to hire locally. And again, we're going to be here for a long time. And again, I want to reiterate, we will be a positive member of this community. And again, I think our actions in the past speak pretty loudly to that effect. So I thank you for your time tonight, and I hope you guys will let us move through. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you good? All right, this is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item?
Mr. Chair, we haven't presented our staff report yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, go for it.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed marijuana establishment meets all Title 19 special use permit requirements. Staff therefore recommends approval of the application. Please note that there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Please come forward, sir. State your name for the record.
Thank you, Chairman Salvio. Lex Anderson, 3709 Waterhole Street. I'm the historian for NARA, our rural preservation area. We've been in business for like 25 years. Basically, I'm just a company clerk. Sir, this is going to run about 20 seconds over your 2-minute thing. Can I have that? Can you let me go with that? I appreciate it. There's also a map being distributed to each of you all to show the detail of what this is all about. The reason we're involved with this agenda item is because we were intimately involved with the 10-hour Planning Commission and the 2-day City Council 2014 medical marijuana meeting. Some of you remember that. You were there. That was a long cotton picket day. And this set the precedent standards for this topic. And with those meetings, more than once recreational marijuana was referred to as the elephant in the closet. I have to say that the planning and the city council members did an extraordinary job at these meetings. And one of the seminal issues that these meetings was all about was to keep medical dispensaries away from any close proximity of any residential areas. Chairman Salvia, I only have a couple minutes to present this. Commissioner Williams has been giving comprehensive history and content on items that I won't have time to address, and we appreciate his advocacy to deny the agenda on precedent grounds. At this 2014 medical marijuana dispensary event, we had an agenda item located at the corner of neighborhood Regal Plaza at Jones and Craig Road. It was a precedent decision for future agendas in the Northwest area. The Planning Commission denied it 7-0, and it was denied at the City Council level. This location is very similar in many respects to the applicant's Jones and Cheyenne location. July 15th this year, Integral Essence held a Ward 4 neighborhood meeting at for a recreational dispensary at Craig and Tenaya. We were there in support of the neighbors with the Regal Plaza as a historical precedent. Integral Essence voluntarily withdrew their application in a display of being neighborhood socially responsible. I thought that was a class act. It should be noted that this location clearly had a residential impact far less than today's application. Deep Roots has their theme, there is no marijuana dispensary within the Ward 5 boundaries. That's what they're focused on. And this application will help fill that need. The map demonstrates that, y'all were distributed, map demonstrates that this location has little to do with Ward 5 and everything to do with access to suburban Ward 4, Ward 6, and the immediate 3 county islands. Next to this 5991 Cheyenne and Jones address is 161-unit Teleus Park Apartments. Next to it is 238 Sonoma Palms Apartments. Across from that is the Willow single home residential areas and the 3 county islands. Okay, and that's walking distance from the location.
Okay, I'll let you go over. I'm picking up what you're putting down,
Okay.
so I'm going to cut you off right there.
So you got the message?
I got the message.
Okay, thank you very much. I
right,
appreciate it,
thank
sir.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
And if they want a second neighborhood meeting, I can arrange one at the Roadkill Grill outside after hours, anytime. Social distancing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott, is there any public comment? Thank you.
There's one online comment, Chairman, from David Kale of 3421 Irv Marcus Drive. He writes, I currently reside in Ward 5, close to the 6001 West Cheyenne location. I'm looking forward to it, too, and can't wait to have accessible cannabis in my neighborhood. I am currently a Nevada medical marijuana patient, and I'm being treated for cancer. There is no easy access in this part of the city for cannabis products I need. This location would be a benefit to patients. Also, it looks like the location could employ quite a few people in a business that has been deemed essential, so some of my neighbors could have new jobs. The city of Las Vegas and the state of Nevada could use the tax revenue. This is good for the patient, the neighborhood, and the state. It should be a no-brainer, and you should approve this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Arnold, you got any follow-up comments?
Let's follow up with a couple quick points. This board knows how difficult these are to locate. I mean, to find a location that hits all of the marks, the required marks, is difficult, and that's why they are all in Ward 2 and Ward 1. Ward 5 doesn't have one. We happen to find one location in this city where it hits the marks. That's the primary reason we're looking here. I feel like I want to say something about Craig and Tenaya, that it wasn't withdrawn for those reasons. It was withdrawn because it had another protected use near it. So with that, look, I'm happy to answer any questions and ask for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. At this time, I will turn it over to the commissioners. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just start by asking for a little bit more information around the meetings, public meetings. I know initially when we engaged on this issue a few months back, there was quite a bit of opposition from the residents, the neighbors. Of course, we saw the NARA commentary here that they were in strong opposition of the project, but just if you could just talk a little bit more about the process and the first time, the second time, because we went kind of quick through that.
Yeah, I mean, we held our meeting, I would say 20, 25 people showed up. We had some vocal folks that were against, and that's always the case with these. And this is not me dismissing them whatsoever. I understand that. There is an element that comes with this that is a strong, overbearing fear that a lot of generations were raised with. I can't get over some of that. Some of those folks I'm able to because they've experienced some positive impacts because of this stuff. We did our best to allay, again, those fears of those individuals that were adamantly opposed. There's no way, no matter where I try to locate one of these, that I'm gonna hit 100%. It's just not gonna happen on this one. It's a touchy subject. As far as the rest of the meeting, I mean, we stayed there for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, probably a good 45 minutes after the meeting broke, to speak with people and to try and work through any of those concerns. It was our intention, again, to hold another neighborhood meeting. You know, again, if we're not seeing, you referenced the mail-in cards. If you looked at the numbers, they're not overwhelming. I mean, I think it's 60-30 based on those cards. We saw the opposite on our side, which isn't surprising because it was our mailer, right? So beyond that, I mean, the concerns were safety, crime, smell, and, really it's traffic and their ability to get in and out of the area. So we feel we can address all of that. So I hope I answered your question.
All right, thank you. I think I'd open it up for comments or questions from the fellow commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Chada, and then I'll go to Commissioner Toussaint.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, I do have a couple of questions and a couple of concerns regarding this application. Okay. First and foremost, right behind the proposed location, you have 156 multifamily units. Mm-hmm. How do you plan on addressing those, and what has been the opposition from those?
I have not mapped out where any of the opposition, address-wise has come from. We have not done that, but what I can tell you is that for our first neighborhood meeting, we went out to 1,500 foot, and we actually got the list from the city itself. On the second one, we took the city list, and then we expanded to 3,000 foot on that mailer I showed you guys. I couldn't tell you the last time I've ever been a part of something that's expanded a mailer that far. So we're doing our best to hit everyone and open the lines of communication. Going into city council, if we're able to, it's our full intention to come up with even more unique ways to communicate with this neighborhood, because it's been said to us loud and clear, as you are doing now, but also by Councilman Creer, that you need to speak with these folks. And if we can't show that we've put in that effort, we don't deserve approval.
Let me just also discuss another concern that I have. You have an assisted living facility across from you with 150 units, along with a gymnastics school across from you. So I don't see this as being as harmonious and compatible, taking those 3 properties alone.
I'm not sure I see the relation to the assisted living, but on the gymnastics studio, we've actually talked to that owner. And that owner has expressed, I was hoping we'd have a letter, apparently it didn't come in, but he's expressed his support. And in fact, that vacant lot we spoke about is right across the street from him. And I'm told in all the communication as we've been out there doing our work, it's very much appreciated. So again, we're doing everything we feel we can to address those concerns. With dispensaries, there's always this fear that people are gonna just walk in, get their product, and then go to the nearest park or school or you name it, and enjoy the product. That is not our customers. These folks are everyday people that are typically professionals in this valley with a family. This is an after-hours type of deal. They have no desire to be out in public creating trouble, and we don't want those type of customers.
I understand, and I have one more question. There is another dispensary, Thrive, which is under 2 miles away from you. They're at 2755 Cheyenne. And how would you address the concern of saturation in that area?
Yeah, I actually have the list. I was going to read it in, and it escaped me. I showed they're 2.7 miles away. Significant distance, we have Jenny's that's 4.1, and then Silver Sage that's 5 miles away. The area of all the areas, this is not saturated. And in fact, this is a great location for those that are trying to do business. They don't want to invest millions of dollars in a location with the hope that they're going to get the business. Their model supports that location because there isn't another dispensary for 2.7 miles. If you go anywhere else in this valley where there are dispensaries, they are on top of each other. It's challenging. So again, we're doing our best to try and identify those locations that make sense for us on a business standpoint, make sense for the neighborhood, in our opinion, and obviously don't cluster. So that, again, I'm doing my best to answer.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Toussaint?
Yes, I do believe staff got this right, and I have voted on other marijuana dispensaries, and I have to be consistent. You will have my support tonight. With the issue of Ward 4, when we had the dispensary, the reason why it wasn't approved and they withdrew was because there was a karate studio right in that shopping center, and then across the street there was a ballet school. So that was the reason why, and I was at that town hall meeting. And I do believe staff got this right. I know it's an emotional issue. I get it. I have talked to other people that have had dispensaries in their communities, and after it's been there, they say they don't even realize they're there. So you will have my support tonight, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Toussaint. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These, again, these are very difficult decisions, and you know, while we work to make sure that we're hitting all of our separations and requirements, it's also important that we have the harmonious and compatible relationships, especially when it comes to residents, right, and surrounding businesses. What's interesting is initially, I thought there was a lot more opposition to this project, but I'm really not seeing that in terms of protests. There's actually more supports that have come in, and again, I appreciate NARA's position on this, as well as the Sonoma Palms residency. Ultimately, you guys have addressed security, you've addressed odor, you have gone back out after previous conversations and had subsequent meetings trying to reach out. I realize it's difficult times right now with the the situations that we're dealing with and the restrictions and all of those things. Very difficult to make these types of decisions when you take everything into account. Staff did make the recommendation for approval. Unless there's further comments, though, I'd like to make a recommendation.
Please do.
At this time, I'm going to make a recommendation for denial on item SUP 78301.
So a yes vote would be for denial. Please cast your vote. And that motion fails.
So then if we could have someone who voted against the motion make the counter motion, that would be appropriate.
Commissioner Rogan?
Yes, I'd make a motion for approval of item 31. I'm sorry, I lost the SUP number.
SUP 78301.
78301, thank you.
You've heard the motion. A yes vote is for approval. And that motion passes.
Great, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, that item will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on June 17th, 2020.
At this time, I'm going to go out of order on the agenda, and I'm going to pull up the Director's Business, item number 47, which is TXT 77317, for the possible action on request to amend the LVMC Title 19.10 Special Area and Overlay District, LVMC Title 19.12 Permissible Use, and the LVMC 19.18 Definitions and Measures to allow off-premise messaging in conjunction with certain land use and to provide for other related matters. Staff has no recommendation. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed text amendment would change off-premise messaging requirements in conjunction with a non-restricted gaming establishment with a hotel having more than 200 rooms and a commercial recreation amusement establishment with permanent fixed seating for over 9,000 people, providing parity with existing Clark County off-premise sign regulations for like uses. Staff has no recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item, please come forward, state your name for the record.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Carrie Kramer with Argentum Partners here on behalf of the World Market Center of Las Vegas. We are here in support of the text amendment. We have spoken to staff as well as the City Manager's Office and would just like to see convention and trade show facilities included within the text message, the text amendment as well. We believe that with the ability to include trade show facilities, they would have the ability to work with downtown stakeholders as well and advertise as well. And so thank you, that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So far, please come forward, state your name for the record.
I apologize. I have this for the record if I could spit that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jennifer Lazovich, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here tonight representing Lamar Outdoor Advertising. We worked for a number of years on an ordinance that is similar to this in Clark County. It was very, very narrowly crafted for a number of reasons as it relates to where you can have on and off premise advertising. As your staff report indicates, it is mirroring what that county ordinance did. And it keeps it very narrowly tailored to just be your casinos with rooms as well as your 9,000-seat arena. We have no objection to that ordinance. We would be in opposition of any expansion beyond what the current provisions of the staff report indicate. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else, I'll close the public here and open it up to nothing online. Nothing online, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I do, for the record, need to make a clarification. So one of the things that we did not realize as staff was that in the county, they consider a convention center a recreation facility. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. So when they did craft their bill, convention centers are considered a part of what they did approve as a part of their bill. So one of the things we will be doing between Planning Commission and City Council introduction of a bill will be examining that aspect of it, because again, as has been mentioned and as was in the staff report, the intent here was to create parity between what the county approved and what the city would offer as a similar opportunity. So I just want to make that clear for the record, that that will be something we'll be looking at, because that nuance of their definition was not something we were aware of.
Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I'm going to be supporting this text amendment tonight. I think that it's certainly a slippery slope, as we see here tonight already. The proposal is for one group of businesses or type of use to allow off-premise advertising, and it's very hard to draw a distinction between one business or one use and another use. I wouldn't be surprised if this were approved later on, that certain other businesses that want to have the income from off-premise signs or for whatever reason have off-premise signs on their property are suddenly coming before us asking for a text amendment. I think I've made clear before that I'm very hesitant to approve off-premise signs. I think they litter the landscape rather than enhance it. So I really think that we should consider this very closely before we just simply pass it on to City Council, though I recognize City Council has the ultimate authority on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan. Anybody else wish to be heard on this item? Commissioner Slotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've had those similar concerns in the past with off-premise advertising. The thing that's a little bit different on this for me is it's for the non-restricted gaming, and even though I don't know this where this is coming from, I do see like sister properties being able to cross-promote their own casinos and restaurants and stuff like that, and so you get, for example, possibly the Stevens brothers could cross-promote circa the D, the Las Vegas Club, and things such as that. So it kind of helps promote that whole area, and so I think that's why I could get behind this.
Thank you, Mr. Slotman, and I'd have to echo the same sentiment. That's how I understand it, as well as it's been explained to me by city staff. It was them to actually enhance. They have 4 or 5 properties. They can use that and cross each other and just get the message out. So I would be supporting it myself. Commissioner Cherry.
Yeah, through the chair, I do recall years ago we had, I think it was the Fremont Hotel, had a request for an off-site sign, and it was granted, and it was just to do another one of their properties. It wasn't for, off-site advertisers to come on. It was just to cross-promote between properties. It made good sense. It's a sign that faces Pizza Rock. I saw it the other day. I feel like this area where there's a lot of noise, and there will always be a lot of noise, I think it makes sense on these big boxes that they could both cross-promote and then do off-premise advertising and kind of stay relevant to the strip in some ways. When, say, big corporations come in and want to do large events, and they might have a sub-vendor that wants to do advertising that helps sponsor, and I feel like, again, specific to this area, it makes sense. Where I live farther down to the south from the Fremont area, on Las Vegas Boulevard, it's to me a little more of a neighborhood, even though we're on Las Vegas Boulevard, and makes sense that this wouldn't be included in that area. It's just kind of tied back to the non-restricted licensees and properties. So I think it's something that I can get behind and support.
Thank you, Commissioner Chada.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a question as far as comparison between the Furniture Mart and the Convention Center. These are 2 completely different types of uses. I think they are different types of properties. I don't necessarily think that we could ever have a CES show at the Furniture Mart. So I just wanted to voice that as far as addressing some of the concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner, Summerfield, would you like to answer?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that we have a clarification. So the World Market Center is no longer just the furniture market. They now have the Expo Center there that actually will, with the closing of Cashman, serve as the city's only true convention space within the city's limits. So it does have a convention component to it, as well as the trade show that is the three big World Market buildings. So just for clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan, and then I'll go to Commissioner Cherry.
I just have a quick question for Mr. Summerfeld. Would this allow casinos that are not on Fremont Street, say out there in Summerlin, Red Rock, and those other casinos also to do the similar types of off-premise advertising?
Commissioner, if you'll give me 1 second, I need to pull it back up because we've had a lot of debate on that part, and I need to verify what the final language that went into it was. So give me 1 second, I'll pull that up.
Okay, Commissioner Cherry?
I guess after the question is answered, I was prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
But I would like to hear the answer.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Commissioner Rogan's question. So if we look at the new language that's for the off-premise messaging, this would allow off-premise messaging on any non-restricted gaming establishment that's operated in conjunction with a 200-room hotel. So that would include any other, not just our downtown properties, but anything that meets that qualification of a non-restricted gaming with a 200-room hotel as a part of it would be eligible. So, for instance, station casinos often like to do that cross-promotion amongst all their properties. We do have 1, 2 of their properties within the city limits, so they would also be able to take advantage of this change in the code if it were to be adopted by council.
I just would just want to make a further comment. I can totally get behind what the other commissioners are supporting, which is the cross-promotion idea, but this text amendment doesn't limit it to cross-promotion to other properties that are owned by the subject property that's doing the off-premise advertising. It allows all types of off-premise signs. So if that were to be changed and narrowed down, I certainly could support that, but as it's written right now, I wouldn't be able to support it.
I have a question.
Commissioner Chowder?
Chairman. Yeah, so would the World Market have a super graphic that is off premises as well?
Mr. Chairman, through you, so Commissioner Chada, no. So off-premise, by its very definition, does not allow for off-premise advertising. A super graphic signage can only have a messaging that is consistent with whatever the activity that is occurring on site. So for instance, you'll see those during market, at World Market, you'll see the big mattress and the big sofas and the Property Brothers, their company that does their furniture stuff. You'll see those big signs then, but you don't see them except for their furniture stuff. Super graphics cannot have off-premise messaging, and that remains consistent in this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfeld.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherry.
Through the chair, one more question. So on an existing non-restricted 200-room hotel, does it tie back just to their existing master sign plan, or do they have to come forward with approval if it's a new one?
Again, so this is off-premise messaging is a part of their existing sign. If they update their signs, if they want to add some additional signs, change signs around, any of those requirements, they have to still adhere to the code requirements, and they'd have to update their master sign plan accordingly. So this is about allowing a non-restricted gaming hotel with 200 rooms, or as presently written, a commercial recreation facility with 9,000 fixed seats, to be able to include as a part of their standard sign package the ability to have off-premise messaging as a part of their sign portfolio.
Let me, see, it's easy for me on understanding how it connects to Fremont Street and the casinos there, but as Commissioner Rogan raised with, say, Red Rock, which, again, I don't have a problem with the off-site messaging, but can we, if this was approved, when it's done, is there the ability to put billboard after billboard after billboard that just kind of litters the property in the neighborhood?
No, again, to be clear, this does not give them the right to any additional signage beyond what they're allowed for on-premise sign constraints. So you can't do the billboards, those exceed what you can have for your on-premise sign allowances. Now, of course, there's always the ability for an applicant to request a variance to exceed the standard sign requirements. But again, the Planning Commission has been pretty consistent where they've approved variances for signs and where they haven't. But no, this is about allowing off-premise messaging within the existing sign portfolio that's already approved for the sites.
Okay.
Not a billboard after billboard concept that you see along the freeways as you're going to Gene or something like that.
Okay, thank you. I feel a little more comfortable there.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, I think the Red Rock's in the county, not in the city.
But I guess you have like Suncoast that, I don't know if they have 200 rooms, that's on Rampart, and the JW, or I don't know what it's called now, it used to be the JW. Okay, that makes me definitely feel more comfortable.
Motion?
I have one more comment.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Cherry, thank you for asking that question, because I was under the understanding that this would allow just people to put up these billboards on their property. But with that clarification, I can certainly get behind this. As long as it's part of the existing master sign plan and we're not putting up new signs, then certainly I think that's something that I could get behind. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner Schlotman.
Ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, item number 47, TXT 77317, motion for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item will be forwarded to City Council in ordinance form at a future date.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 33 through 36. Item 33, GPA 78413, for the possible action on a request for a general plan amendment from low-density residential to high-density residential on the south side of Harris Avenue between Lily Lane and Efford Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. ZON, item 34, ZON 78414, for the possible action on a request for rezoning from RE residential to R4 high-density residential, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. Item number 35, VAR 78416, for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow 68 parking spaces where 95 parking spaces are required, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. And item number 36, SDR 78417, for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 3-story, 53-unit multifamily residential development with a waiver of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the proposed general plan amendment, rezoning, and site development plan review would allow a development too dense in relation to the surrounding area. Additionally, the requested variance waivers and exceptions reinforce the unsuitability of the proposed project. Staff recommends denial of all applications. Please note there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please come forward, state your name for the record.
Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for your time. My name is Jared LeBeau on behalf of the applicant, Cardia Properties. Jared LeBeau, LeBeau Design, 8607 West Sahara. So there's a couple points that we would like to discuss in asking for this zoning. Hopefully everyone can see this. So in the area right now, obviously you can see we have a great deal of R3 zoning that already exists, of which our subject property outlined here in the red square is currently an RE zoning. So we're asking to go to an R4 zoning, and there's a couple reasons why we'd actually like to apply for that and why we think it's prudent in this situation. So a couple of the issues I know that staff and city have taken concern with, landscaping is one of the denials we've had. We've been waived and approved for a couple of the variances that we'd applied for, but one of them was a 5-foot landscape buffer that would be on the east side of our property on Effinger Street. We previously were able to meet with the 10-foot landscape application that we needed. We actually had to reduce that to 5 feet as a result of giving up about 30 feet of our property to a right-of-way to help widen Effinger Street. So in doing so, it limited the amount of property that we were able to work with. So we tried to squeeze that in there. Furthermore, once we had developed that, we also were notified that we needed to have the 5-foot sidewalk, instead of being located within the public right-of-way, actually as an easement onto our property, which we were more than happy to concede with and grant an easement back to the city to use the property for that purpose. But in doing so, it limited us to having a 5-foot landscape buffer instead of the 10 feet that was required. So that would be the one issue that we just want to kind of bring to attention with that. Otherwise, we would have been happy to comply with that. Some of the other objections, we know we've had the school that's directly across the street. We know this school district obviously is currently overpopulated with students in that school district, as it is in many, and so there's been a discussion that adding this property of the 53 units to this particular parcel would actually add more students to the existing school across the street. Understanding is that the study finds it would be somewhere in the amount of 7 students that would be added to that elementary school, and I think 3 to the feeder schools thereafter. So, one of the things we were looking at is this project, we're looking to do an R4 zoning, obviously, to allow us to achieve the density that we need to make the project really economically viable. It's not substantially far from the R3 zoning that would allow in almost all of the other zoning areas directly surrounding the area, as you can see. And so the thing that we think would really happen is if there was another project that was designed into the R3 zoning, we're talking about a difference of maybe 9 or 10 units is actually what we're applying for. So even though the R4 zoning allows for substantially more, it's not what we need at all. It just happens to be that we're a little bit out of where we should be for an R3. And so in doing so, the amount of students that we would have going to that school would be, if someone applied for an R3, which would be applicable to the zone, would be 6 students. The amount of units that we're applying for in the R4 is asking for 7 students. So it's a 1 student difference. Understandably, every student, certainly matters when a school has more than it's intended to serve, but, we think it's relatively minor. We're not adding a large amount of students into that school versus what an R3 property would have done, as it were. So that would be the school objections and kind of how we see that working. The other issue we had was parking. Something we'd like to point out is that while we are asking for a reduction in the parking, you have to understand we have a relatively small parcel that we're working with, that we're trying to park. And, it's been a tough property to really make work, but we think we found a reasonable solution for it that balances out the amount of parking that the residents are really going to require, in conjunction with the fact that we feel there'll be a pedestrian friendly nature to this property, in addition to the reason why it's designed to actually have a pedestrian entrance directly off of Harris, which I'll show right here. You can see right off of Harris, we have an entrance to the property that's intended to be able to open itself to pedestrian realm and taking in some of the residents into the property from that realm instead of always vehicular traffic. The other thing that we want to point out is that within a quarter-mile to a half-mile radius surrounding the property, there are almost 7 bus stops, which is a fairly significant amount, typically something we'd find more in an urban core development. So we think that would help certainly alleviate some of the required traffic and some of the required parking that the project would otherwise necessitate. So, moving on to that, so asking about that R4 zoning, one of the things that we really want to talk about, again, it's not so different from the R3. We understand the intention of the R4 zoning is to allow for certainly more density and is really intended for larger projects. That's not what we're intending to do at this site. We're really intending to go from what would have been 44 units to 53 units. So it's a relatively minor change, but that difference in the site allows us to actually create, truly an economically viable project. And we think having an economically viable project that, we can have ready for permits and building by the end of 2020 is a much better use than the vacant lot that is currently creating, really just inviting, vagrancy and other problems in the neighborhood. So. In addition to that, the other thing we just really want to point out is that the ownership group of this property, Cardia Properties, is not looking to have this property rezoned with any intention of not developing the property or moving forward. They're happy to look into a memorandum of understanding for development. They're looking to have this zoned so that they can put this project to use. and really create a nice project for the neighborhood that's successful. In addition to that, I'd like to point out that they're intending to hold this project for a long time. So in speaking about holding a long time, you really want to develop a project that is of quality, is well-built, is well-operated, is well-managed and construed. All those things are what, our applicant are looking to accomplish with this project, and we merely need it to go into an R4 to be able to make that really viable so that we can effectively allow that to happen and be a better use of the land for that community. And we truly believe what we're offering to build is really needed in the community, is certainly a much better way to beautify the otherwise vacant land that we currently have. Here's a shot if everyone can see that. And we're just looking to kind of be a part of the community, and we're very close to what would otherwise be an applied zoning of an R3. So again, we're not looking to maximize anything in an R4, we're just looking to be a little bit over to make it viable. It's a tight site, and it's just, there's kind of no economy of scale to develop, 300 units that make something work. We have 53, so respectfully, we ask for approval from the commission, and we'll take comments.
All right, thank you very much. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak on this item? Please state your name for the record, and I'll give you 2 minutes. Start the clock.
Good evening. George Chakakis, 2655 South Rainbow Boulevard. I think staff really nailed it when it denied all 4 of the applications. I own the property to the south, a couple hundred units of senior housing. First started developing it in 1996. Gary Reese was councilman at the time. And I know he went through a very, very lengthy zoning process with him, because he was concerned seniors in the neighborhood with all the existing multifamily that was currently in place. Well, we did finally get his consent, and we developed 110 units in 1998. And then in 2008, we developed a second phase to that addition. But Councilman Reese made me go by every one of the residential neighborhood on Effinger Street, and then the next street over, which was McKnight Street, and visit with every one of those neighbors, sit down with them, and introduce my development to them, show them what kind of impact it would make on the neighborhood, and get their support. It took about 2 months of weekend work, but we did it. We satisfied him, we satisfied the Planning Commission, and we did a second phase. But to protect the seniors, we had to put 10 to 12-foot walls in place to create a separation between the existing multifamily. Even last week, we were replacing windows from the existing multifamily development on Lilly. I don't need another multifamily development to the north of me. I could certainly entertain a different use, maybe another senior housing development, because it doesn't bring in that same type of element. They're asking for nearly a 30% deficiency in your parking requirements. So with that said,
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
deny
it.
this application.
Any public comment offline? Okay.
Nothing online, Chair.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close it, turn it over to Commissioner Slotman. He has nothing. Oh, would you care to rebut against what you just said?
Yeah, in closing, I'd just like to say that, the partnership group that's looking to develop this property, they've had success in managing properties where they're able to really have a high-quality tenant base and keep, a high-quality development that helps alleviate some of those problems. I think that's very much their intention with this property as well. Again, they look to own this for a long time, so it's in their interest to make sure it operates and it's high quality and that it's maintained in a real high regard in the community. It's in the best interest in the community, it's the best interest of their investment, it's in the best interest of the economic feasibility of doing a project of this sort. So I don't think we anticipate creating something that's going to be a bane in the community by any means.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Slotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So if I can ask the gentleman to come back up. This was previously approved as a different multifamily project or something, and we're making, this is a new application, but just so I know the history behind it.
Well, we haven't applied for this to be any other project besides the one that it is currently, so I can't speak to the history of those other applications.
Okay, all right. I've looked at this and listened, George Chukakis, I'm messing up your last name, sorry about that, but anyways, I read the, there was, in our backup, we had a one sheet on the neighborhood meeting, and it sounded like there was about 7 people that come out for that. And then looking at our backup from today, it doesn't seem like there's just as many protests as support cards, which was 1 support and 1 in protest. And now looking at my summary sheet, I'm not seeing anything, and we're not hearing anything coming in online through the city attorney. In the past, I've always looked at these projects as far as parking deviations, as making sure that we're at least getting to that one-to-one. I've voted down numerous projects over by the police station in the downtown area command, in Beverly Green, all over if we can't get to that one-to-one. And we're more than a one-to-one at this particular location here. You know, it does, you are right next door to the RE. Surprised we didn't hear more people come out in opposition. Usually when we have a high-density apartment complex going into right next door to an RE, we'll hear from those people. We didn't hear from any of those today. And just for a point of clarification, if staff can look at the land use map and let us know in the backup if that's the correct land use map or if that's not the correct land use map, because when I was looking at the report, reading the staff report, it stated that it was medium-density residential surrounding this parcel. However, it's all shaded in dark brown as if it was R4 high-density residential. And then Commissioner Rogan just come over and said that he thinks that there might be an incorrect map. So I don't know if somebody could just clarify for us if we have the correct map or not. And while you're looking that up, just a few other comments. I'd like I'd like to see something go on this infill piece of property and something get built here. Whether it's senior housing or what, I don't want to be the person that tells you what to build on that particular type or that particular parcel. But I'll go to the other commissioners, see if anybody else has any comments, and then see if staff can address my question.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can support this project. Mr. Jakakis, I mean, where are you? You were the first in the neighborhood. You were the trailblazer there, and you had to go through many hoops that I think people that are following you and proposing these types of developments don't have to go through now because of what you did. And I note that there were several variances that were granted on your property. I'm looking at the interactive map right now and pulling up some of those prior variances. So I think the fact that this one needs some variances as well, I don't think should disqualify this type of infill project from going in. Not a developer, but I know these infill projects, they're tough to pencil in. They're tough to make profitable. And we need them in Wards 3. We need them in Wards 1, some of the older parts of the city, to make sure that this city continues to grow and develop in our older areas. So, Commissioner, you have my support on this project tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Slotman. You want to hold off? Commissioner Chada.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, I'm going to echo Commissioner Rogan's sentiments as well. I think this is a beautiful project. I think that this is a project that I could get behind as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherry.
Through the chair, same comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Same comments.
Commissioner Toussaint.
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Rogan. I lived on the corner of Poppy and Lily many, many years ago, so I'm familiar with this area. And I really do think that this is a good project. I think it's compatible with this area, so you'll have my support.
Thank you, Commissioner Slotman.
And Commissioner Tucson, I was going to ask if you lived in that neighborhood, because you've lived in almost every neighborhood, so, but Ward 6.
Have not lived in Ward 6 yet.
Okay.
And through you, Chair, for the land use maps, you'll find one land use map underneath the GPA, and that map has an incorrect key at the bottom. So the colors that are showing are your general plan land use. So brown is not actually, so if you go under the zoning, that land use map actually shows the individual zoning, and you'll see that in the slide's actually correct. So right now, if you look at your screen on the slides that they're putting up from the back, that's actually the right key, if that makes sense. So brown actually means medium density, not R4 for general plan land uses. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
And then, if you go under the zoning in your backup, you'll see the actual zoning map, which will show R3 versus RE and that sort of thing.
Okay. And sorry to throw that on you at the last minute. I would have brought it up prior to, but I just, anyways, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on item 33, based on the testimony tonight, I would move to approve.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Yes, Mr. Chair, on item number 34, ZON 78414, I would move to approve based on our testimony heard tonight.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. Commissioner Rogan? And that motion carries.
And, Mr. Chair, on item 35, VAR 78416, would move to approve.
You've heard the vote. Please cast. And that motion carries.
And, Mr. Chair, on item 36, SDR 78417, I move to approve.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those 4 items will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on June 17th, 2020.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 37 through 39. 37 VAR 78457 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow an 8-foot rear yard setback where 15 foot is required at 935 South Decatur Boulevard, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Item number 38, VAR 78458 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow seven parking spaces where 8 are required, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. And item 39, SDR 78459 for the possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 2,280 square foot office building with the waiver of perimeter landscape buffer requirements, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Can I have the staff report?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to overdevelop the subject site as evidenced by the requested variances and waiver. A reduction in the size of the proposed office would allow conformance with Title 19 development standards. Therefore, staff is recommending denial of all applications. Please note there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant, please step forward. State your name for the record.
Landon Christofferson, 2885 East Quail Avenue, 89120. Here representing the applicants. There was previously a building on the site. It became unoccupied and then became a detriment to the neighborhood. So therefore, that was removed back in 2019. Now we're coming back and asking that we put, it's approximately about the same size of building. And we believe we're meeting the intent of the code. You know, don't park adjacent to residential, keep the parking adjacent to the roads, put in landscape. As a compensation for the variances on the landscaping, we're willing to do a little more dense buffer. We show that on the landscape plan. Right now, we're at 15 feet. We're willing to go 10. That's just one more tree. Again, the variance on the parking, to meet the code on the handicap, we have to provide a van accessible, and that took away one parking spot. So overall, we feel that we're meeting the intent of the code by providing landscape all around the building. The existing Decatur Boulevard, where all of these PRs are, a lot of them don't even have landscaping with them. So we ask for your approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing here. Mr. Scott, anything on?
Nothing online, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Turn it over to the commission at this time. Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you. Sir, did you speak to the neighbor that's directly to the east of the property?
To the east, it's a larger lot. There's a casita in the back, and then the house is further up towards the front.
Right, I recognize that, but I was just wondering if you had an opportunity to speak to him or her.
We have not.
Okay. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any comments on this project?
I see none.
I can get behind this project. These smaller lots that I believe were probably residential at one point or undeveloped, they're small, they're difficult for anyone to use for a commercial purpose in this day and age. Building a small building, it's just not going to work. So at some point, we're going to have to address that on a larger scale for these older properties. And until then, I think that the nature and circumstances of the lot size justify the variances that are requested this evening. I would ask you, sir, Mr. Christopherson, if you could just talk to that neighbor between now and City Council, because this won't be final action tonight. Make sure that you get their support and at least their understanding of what's happening with regard to that waiver of the landscaping and the 8-foot distance separation, all right?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, I'd make a motion to approve item 37 VAR 78457.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Also make a motion to approve item 38 VAR 78458.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. Slotman, Cherry. And that motion carries.
And then finally, I'd make a motion to approve item 39 SDR 78459.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on June 17th, 2020.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 40, VAR 78593 for the possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 0-foot corner side yard setback where 15 feet is required for a 2 accessory structure Class 2 barbecue and fireplace at 400 Park West Way, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has proposed to install a barbecue and fireplace that will be connected to utilities and require a building permit. Due to the fact these are permanent structures, they are considered Class 2 accessory structures and required to adhere to zoning code regulations, including setbacks. No evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by proposing accessory structures to be built within the required corner side yard setback area. Repositioning these proposed amenities in other areas of the yard would allow conformance to Title 19 requirements. If approved, they will be subject to conditions. Please note that there are additional letters of support and protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record, sir.
Adan Castillo, 6012 Golden Sun Court. I represent Mark McIntyre, my client. Like you said, this is the site plan. This is the north side by the entry of the community. Basically, that's the street we're asking for. Basically, no 0 foot for setback, just would be freestanding fireplace that would be over here on the barbecue. We feel like we don't, obviously we'll follow code, but we are concerned on any comments that you have to move forward, and, if you have any question. And another thing that, before I forget about it, this is the 3D for the fireplace and the barbecue. This is a simple things that every person, every house needed. We don't ask for too much, and we move forward for the approval.
Okay, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this agenda item? Seeing none here. Mr. Scott?
Nothing on the line, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I will then now turn it over to Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this project, I mean, we really don't have, it's, given the height of the wall, it's actually difficult to see anything from the right-of-way. Also, there's no neighbors adjacent to the corner side of the rear property, so I think it's a nice project. It's going to be beautifully laid out. I could actually get behind this, but I welcome any comments. It's pretty simple to me, straightforward.
I'm seeing none.
All right, so at this time, I'd like to make a motion, item VAR 78593 for approval.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item will move forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on June 17th, 2020.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 41 through 43. 41 SUP 78656 for the proposed action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed motor vehicle sales used at 5750 Sky Point Drive, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Item number 42 SUP 77728 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed automotive retail use with waivers to allow more than 5 rental vehicles to be stored on site and the sale of used automobiles where such is not allowed. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. And item number 43, SUP 77684 for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed truck rental use with waivers to allow a 0-foot distance separation from a single-family resident detached dwelling where 330 feet is required, accessory service that are not performed within the enclosed structure, and service bays that face the public right-of-way. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to operate a used motor vehicle dealership with automobile and truck rentals at the subject site. On February 19th of 2020, the City Council approved ordinance number 6725, which amended the Town Center Development Standards Manual to provide motor vehicle sales used as an allowed use within the GCTC General Commercial Town Center Special Land Use District by means of an approved special use permit. Previously, this land use was restricted to the area commonly known as the Auto Mall located within the Centennial Center and was allowed only in conjunction with new automobile dealerships. Staff finds that the proposed used motor vehicle sales and automobile rental uses are able to be operated in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with the existing surrounding land uses and is recommending approval of both special use permits. However, due to the 0-foot distance separation waiver from the existing residential neighborhood to the north and the future condominium development currently under construction to the east of the subject site, staff cannot support the proposed truck rental land uses and is recommending denial of that special use permit. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, Laura Drea, 520 South 4th Street. It's nice to see you all again. I'm here with Kelly McNamara. She's with Enterprise Holdings, that I'm sure you recognize as a car rental company, but they also build some sites to sell their older inventory, and Kelly can answer any questions about the divesting operations as well as the truck rentals. This property was vacated by a Dodge brand dealership of new and used vehicles more than a decade ago. As stated, staff was in support of reestablishing this use as well as the car rentals. In regard to truck rentals, there are a couple of technicalities with code. The first is the 330-foot distance separation from a single-family residential. Because we share a property line with This residential development is also separated by a drainage channel, but because we share that property line, it appears as though there's a 0-foot separation from the two uses. In actuality, this design exceeds the requirement. The rental trucks are parked in this purple area, shown on the plan. You can see all but one home is separated from this truck rental space by a 33,000 square foot building, while only this home has exposure, and that is separated by 440 feet of space, which exceeds the requirement. The trucks have direct access to Sky Point Drive without circling behind the building near the residential. The second issue was visibility of the roll-up doors from Sky Point Drive. 2 doors are visible only from this point of the street. They are located more than 1,000 feet from the curb. The dealership was originally designed to have the showroom as the prominent facade, and it is. However, because this is a very irregular shaped parcel, the very limited visibility of these bays could not be avoided. We did have a neighborhood meeting. The neighbors who attended the meeting were appreciative that we allocated space to ensure no alarms disrupt them overnight and their households. They expressed relief that this property could be occupied after so long. That said, we ask for your permission to move forward.
All right, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing here. Mr. Scott?
Nothing online, Chair.
All right, thank you, and I'll turn it over to myself. I was actually surprised when I seen this again, because I thought we were done with it. The community has reached out to me overwhelmingly in support, because it's been, like you said, sitting there for over 10 years, vacant, weeds growing through, people setting palm trees on fire. I mean, they want a tenant, and they had no problem with it back when we started this project a long time ago. So, I mean, reaching out with them again after this my briefing, like I said, I was shocked to actually see it come up again. I still have the same supporters out there that just want something in there, and they're fine what's in there, what's been proposed to be in there. So if there's nothing else, I would definitely make a recommendation to approve this item, item number 41, SUP 78656. And that motion carries. Item number 42, SUP 77728, motion to approve. And that motion carries. And finally, item 43, SUP 77684, motion to approve. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, these items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Moving on to agenda item number 44, SUP 78577, for the possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,572 square foot financial institution, specified use with a waiver to allow a 150-foot distance separation from a residential use where 200 feet is required, and to allow a 0-foot distance separation for an existing financial institution, specified use where 1,000 feet is required at 81 North Nellis Boulevard in Ward 3, and the staff recommends denial. Can I have the staff report?
Mr. Chairman, staff notes that there is a drainage channel that separates the financial institution specified use from the residentially zoned properties to the west, which provides an adequate visual and physical buffer, therefore mitigating the requested 150-foot distance separation waiver. However, staff does not support the requested waiver to allow a 0-foot separation from an existing financial institution specified use, as the impact of the additional use to the existing shopping center will result in an oversaturation of the use in the surrounding area. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the request. Please note that there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Please step forward and give me your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Victor Dela Cruz. I'm with Manette, Phelps & Phillips, and my address is 2049 Century Park East, Los Angeles, California, 90067. I thought maybe I would start off by telling you a little bit about the company. We understand the city's spacing requirements for financial institutions, specified uses, and really the definition for this particular use includes any company that lends money. And the reason for the code's adoption, like many cities, for special definitions for lenders is that they're trying to capture payday lenders, auto title loans, those sorts of companies that often have predatory loans. What I wanted to do today is walk you through what Opportune is. Unfortunately, we happen to fall under that definition, and we were a little bit surprised, actually, to see a recommendation for denial, given that really we see this really as just a technical issue because of what we do. Opportune is a publicly traded company. We have approximately 330 locations throughout the country. It was founded in 2005. And there is no payday lending that takes place there. There's no check cashing. There are no auto title loans. There are no deferred presentment loans. Any of the sorts of loans that you usually try to zone out and create distance buffers for don't really apply in connection with us. We're actually the opposite of that. So it's a bit ironic that we find ourselves today with a recommendation for denial. Opportune, since 2009, has been certified by the U.S. Department of the Treasury as a CDFI. That is a community development financial institution. And I sent a letter in yesterday that has some materials that attach the letter that we submitted with our application. That letter has both the Community Development Financial Institution certification from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, as well as other material that tells you a little bit about the company. And the letter that we submitted with our application was actually not part of your commission package, which is why I sent it again, and perhaps it was missed. But in addition to being a CDFI that gets a certification every single year, so long as it is viewed by the Department of the Treasury as fostering economic development and community revitalization. Time Magazine also named Opportune in 2018, it was named by Time Magazine one of the 50 genius companies in the United States. So I think that really goes to underscore that we're not one of these run-of-the-mill payday lenders. We happen to believe there's no such thing as a good payday lender. I'm sure that in connection with spacing requirements, you often have different companies telling you that they're somehow different. What Opportune does, and the reason that it received the Genius Company Award from Time Magazine, is that it's developed essentially a computer model. It's a proprietary underwriting system. It was developed by data scientists, statisticians, mathematicians, and they employ basically advanced data analytics to score individuals who would not otherwise be able to obtain loans. So the premise behind this company was that it wanted to provide loans to individuals who did not have any credit rating. And they look at things such as the cash flow, how long a person has been at a particular address, how long they've held a particular cell phone, how long they've had a particular job, and so forth. And people who would otherwise be outside of the financial mainstream, who would not be able to get loans and would have to actually turn to payday lenders, are able to actually develop credit with a company like Opportune. Which is why we're particularly proud of the work that we do. Unlike the payday loans, the loans that you get at Opportune are unsecured. So there's no, you're not going to lose your car. You're not going to you're not going to be in a cycle of cycle of debt, where you're just paying the interest. And sometimes with payday lenders, the interest rates could be upwards of 400%, something like that. All of the loans at Opportune, essentially, you could come in and pay off your loan literally the next day. if you wanted to, right? And you would and not have to pay any of the interest, right, that you would otherwise have under that loan. So it's no different than the loans that you would have at a bank. Probably, you could probably do better than many banks, and my client could probably speak to you about that if you have any questions. But you know, the problem with us, and the reason that we're not allowed by right under the city zoning code, is that that's all we do, right? We only do loans. If we also accepted deposits, based on the types of loans that we have, right, we would be able to establish ourselves without having to deal with the spacing requirements. Just to give you a sense of the accolades that the company receives, this year, the Mexican-American Bar Foundation is awarding the company with its Community Impact Award. It received accolades from the National Consumer Law Center, which is a national nonprofit advocate for consumer justice and economic security, the Center for American Progress, the Texas Appleseed Institute. And so, you know, throughout its history, the company has really received a lot of praise from academics and all these nonprofit organizations for changing the model. And so I think the question for you to decide today, right, is whether, you know, having an opportune in the same shopping center as a payday lender is necessarily a bad thing. Do you want to have people to have the opportunity of getting a reasonable loan that is not a payday loan, or do you want to basically force them to go to another location in the city? There are already approximately, I think there's 7 opportune locations in Las Vegas, and so it's, I think, something, and my client could tell you a little bit about the loans and how much they've dispersed and how much they've saved folks here in Vegas, but it's a company that we're very proud of, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about the use.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from, oh, you'd like to make a statement? Go ahead.
Hi, I'll be quick. My name is Alejandra Velasquez, and I am the Senior Director of Public Affairs for Opportune, and our attorney has explained a lot more of the details of who we are, but what I wanted to share with you is the impact that Opportune has had directly here in the city of Las Vegas. So as he mentioned, we have had 7 locations here since 2015. And in that time, we've made more than $65,000 loans in the range of $300 to $9,000. Now, Opportune is the only place you will find where you can get a $300 loan and have 6 months to pay it back in equal installment payments. As Victor mentioned, you know, if someone came back the next day and said, oh, you know what, I have the $300, no interest, no fees, we don't have prepayment penalties, no balloon payments. These are self-amortizing loans. You're paying down the balance, the principal balance, along with, you know, the interest that is applied on the whole loan. We have dispersed nearly $120 million in these loans here in Las Vegas since 2015. We have done a study and that has found that we are 1/4 to 1/7 of the cost of payday and auto title loan. And in that vein, we have saved our customers $43 million in interest and fees had they gone to a different type of lender to get that type of loan. We have helped more than 40,000 individuals in the city of Las Vegas establish a credit score. That's 40,000 people that had a 0 credit score. And because they took a loan out with us, we're able to establish positive credit, which means, as you all know, you can't do anything without credit in this country. And the average loan here in Las Vegas is $1,800, which comes with a 12 to 14-month repayment period. So in addition, we also provide financial education and access to financial coaches along with our products. So really our goal is mission-driven to help people who are low to moderate income, who don't have a lot of access to financial products, to be able to access a product that's gonna help them build credit and build a better future. And really our core model is to be in places where you're likely to find these alternative lenders, payday, auto title loan, rent-to-own, pawn shops, so that people, our studies have shown that people will go to what's nearest to them. When they go outside of their home, where can they go? Because they're usually, it's an emergency for these types of dollar loans. And so by being able to be there allows us to be an option for them in a time of need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This notice as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard? please come forward, state your name for the record, social distance, you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of,
State your name for the record, please.
my name is Director Hector Cruz. On behalf of Dalinda Torres, the President, and Carlos Vélez, the Director of the nonprofit Patriotic Committee. I'm here, let me start off with, right here we have the website for the Patriotic Committee, if it's required. In 1980, we started giving out scholarships for kids, young and old, in English, Spanish, arts, cultural arts, music, for the communities in need. And educational entertainment. 20 years ago, we started with educational entertainment in Christmas in El Barrio for 2,000 to 2,200 families that attend the Christmas in El Barrio. The nonprofit organization, as I said, provides educational entertainment and all the computer classes and all that. But we depend on sponsors. 4 years ago, Opportune started sponsoring. They have been the biggest sponsor yet, that the Patriotic that started in 1980, that's 40 years ago anniversary, started sponsoring. So we also have members that have asked for their loans, whatever he said, how they explained it, it's not a payday loan. That's a different situation there. They already explained it. But we do, those 3 members are not here. We only have 1 member that have worked with them in the community. So it is very important to us, to the community, that their business grow, not only because they do help out sincerely the community, and they do what they say they do, it's also because we need their sponsorship. That means if we get that sponsorship, that there's kids and adults that depend on the sponsorship for the scholarships to keep their educational entertainment not only in Christmas, throughout the whole year, getting their quantity, whatever they sponsor. And the loans, as I said, personally have not asked for a loan. I have 1 person that has. I have the president of the Patriotic Committee.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. This is a land use issue. I think we're getting a little far.
Well, he's out of time.
Yeah, so.
I got what you're saying. I gotta cut you off right there.
On behalf of Dalinda Torres, the President, Director Carlos Vélez, and Opportune, please recommend a special use permit for Opportune.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything on the internet?
Nothing online.
All right, thank you. So I'll close the public hearing. You could give that to, set it there, the clerk will grab it. Any other
Find the
further
website right there
comments?
for the Patriotic Committee.
Applicant, any brief comment you'd like to make? Applicant, representative?
Thank you so much. One thing I'd forgotten to mention, in the letter that I sent yesterday, in Exhibit B, oftentimes in many cities, when there's a question as to whether we fall into that same definition of the payday lenders, we, in pretty much in every situation, we're able to get zoning administrator interpretations or some sort of determination from the planning department stating that we are allowed by right as a financial institution because of the particular use that we have. So we attached letters from, I believe it was the city of Tucson, city of Avondale in Arizona, and Vista, California, just as precedent. But the point is, unfortunately, in Las Vegas, the definition says any company that has lending as their primary business, so we get captured in that same base as payday lenders. But I think that the letters are helpful as well in giving you a sense of the company that we are as viewed by other cities.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just for the record, he did submit it, Vice Chair Slotman has it now submitted to the clerk for the record.
Thank you. At this time now, I will turn it on over to Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so I hear all of this, and I'm glad Opportune's given grants and stuff like that, but we're not voting on that here today. We're voting on a land use matter. I still don't understand the you'll said a whole bunch of stuff about what you're doing and, you know, fixed loans and all of this other stuff, and it all sounds great, but I don't know the difference between this and a payday loan. If you're charging 20% and they're charging 20, 30, 40%, I don't see the difference here. Our code specifically states that there must be a distance separation from other financial institutions specified and residential. I can get behind the residential because, as Mr. Boyles in the planning department has commented, that it's across a drainage channel. However, we're within the same shopping center as another financial institution specified. I don't see the difference in this. I want to ask the other planning commissioners if they heard amongst, you know, what the applicant was talking about, if they see any difference between this. But I can't grasp a hold of anything that where this is much different than other financial institutions specified in the past, and I've always voted to have the distance separation, so.
Okay, Commissioner Chada?
I'd like, Chairman, through you, I'd like to ask either Ms. Velasquez or her counsel a couple of questions about the logistics on this, and maybe that could clarify that for us, Commissioner. The first question I have is, are you dispersing funds from this location? Is that the intent? You will be dispersing funds from this location?
Yes.
And are you accepting payment?
Yes.
On these loans at this location? Okay, those are the only two questions I have. Based on your answers, other than the interest rates and the structure of the loans, I don't see a difference between this and a payday loan, because you are dispersing funds and because you are accepting payment on these loans at the location. So if I'm mistaken, clarify, please.
Yeah, so.
State your name, please.
Hi, Victor Dela Cruz. So with payday loans, you know, the interest rates are often about 400, you're getting to about 400%. And with Opportune, the highest that you'll get on any of the loans is going to be about 36% at the very highest end. And with a payday loan, you don't build credit with a payday loan, right? They don't report to credit agencies, and they're actually, you know, essentially taking your paycheck and holding your paycheck or your car as security, and their goal is to keep you trapped where they're basically continuously getting your revenue, right, from your paycheck, or alternatively your actual property. Opportune loans are unsecured, and that's the key difference between a payday loan and again, can you imagine? I mean, seriously, a community development financial institution certified by the Treasury being a payday lender, or that Time Magazine would call a payday lender that you see sprouting up in mini malls left and right, a genius company? I mean, that's, frankly, it's mind-boggling to me. I mean, a community development financial institution, it was an incredibly rigorous process that the company had to go through. There's a certification that they have to get every single year with respect to that, and it's in the certification, it's in the name. So I guess I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding why we're not seeing the difference between the two types of loans.
Well, I'd like to address that, because what you're discussing right now is a business model and a difference between the business model of a payday loan as opposed to Opportune. We're not concerned of the business model itself, and I understand and I commend you for the business model that Opportune presents, but what we're dealing with tonight is land use, and that's why I asked you two very important questions as to whether you are dispersing funds and accepting payments on those loans, because that's what we look at as far as, and we're not considering the business model.
Okay, so I'll address zoning code things. So your zoning code explicitly provides 4 waivers from the distance requirements, right? And so in looking at the distance requirements, you look to see whether there are any policy reasons why we would provide a waiver in this particular context. If from a land use standpoint, there were two businesses that were detrimental to the immediate community because they were exploiting people with loans that were counterproductive to development, right? Then from a land use standpoint, it makes sense that you would want to have distancing requirements. In our particular case, we're no different than a bank in terms of the loans that we provide. And I don't think anybody would ever look at, who understands opportunity. That's why I sent the letter yesterday with all of the material, and I invited you to Google.
I'd like to hear from the rest of our commissioners if possible.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay, did you get what you needed, Commissioner Chada? Okay, Commissioner Chair.
Through the chair, yeah, I get the sense that there's banks, there's payday loans, and somewhere in between there's opportune. That might be a smaller dollar amount, 300 to 8,000, whatever their range is, and an interest rate, maybe it's 20 to 30-something percent, maybe it's 60%, I don't know. But the bottom line is, it is a land use thing. It comes back to the separation of our code. I think Commissioner Schlotman was, his history has shown on how he's voted. I feel like it's consistent with how I'd be voting here today.
Thank you. Commissioner Toussaint.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Slotman. We're here to discuss the variance here for the separation, and we've voted in the past not to approve something like this because it doesn't apply with our rule. I understand you have a business model. It sounds really good, but we're not here to deal with that. We're really not. We're just here to look at the variance, and you won't have my support tonight, and maybe if it goes on to City Council, you might have their support. But right now, the way it stands, I have to go with what staff has said.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan.
Thanks. I do echo all the concerns that have been raised tonight, and I really do think Commissioner Cherry hit it on the head. Your business model falls into a crack in our code, where we have financial institution specified and financial institution general, and you're not really either one. And I applaud your efforts to find that niche between, I would say, extortionate types of payday lending that we see and that we have in our code that's designed to prevent those from appearing in strip mall after strip mall in a certain neighborhood, which we really should enforce. And the model that you're trying to propose, what I can suggest to you is that you really need to talk to Mr. Sommerfeld, and you really need to talk to Councilwoman Diaz to see if there's a way, using the models that you've referenced in other states, that we can have an amendment to allow this kind of the business model that you propose that doesn't really fit in between these two types of uses, to see if that's something that we should adopt into our code to allow this type of business to go in next to a payday lender and not have to deal with these variances. So I would suggest that to you, but again, I can't support it. We can't allow this special use permit. If your business fails, we still have that special use permit, and then another payday lender can move in right next door. So I really can't be in support of it tonight, but I suggest that you reach out and try and find a solution.
Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just to wrap up, I do agree with Commissioner Rogan. So I think there could be a way that you could do it, and I'd welcome you back into Ward 3, which is my ward, because it does sound like y'all do have a better program put together. But we just don't have a place to put you, and I can't put you in. We can't put you into the category of banks. I'm looking at Wallet Hub, who says opportune loans charge 37 to 59% in California. So it's not necessarily a bank. It's not, and I'm not saying that Wallet Hub is correct. I'm just saying it's the first thing that I pulled up. So we can't put you in one, and you might not be at the 400%, as this gentleman has come up here and explained. So, but I do have to follow the way that I have voted historically on these, and I encourage you to go find another spot and bring it back forward to us. And I'd love to approve other locations and learn more about what you're doing. So if you do bring one back, I would encourage you to reach out to us prior to explain what your application is, so we can become a little bit more educated and try helping you through that process. But as far as it goes tonight, we have to follow. I'm going to have to follow staff's recommendation for denial, and that would be my motion.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item is final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Okay, moving on to item number 45, SDR 78584, for the possible action for request for a site development plan review for a proposed 39,178 square foot warehouse and manufacturing building and a proposed 10,709 square foot tavern and banquet facility at 2476 Industrial Road, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to allow a multi-building development consisting of a warehouse, liquor establishment, tavern, and banquet facility uses on the subject site. The subject site is zoned M for industrial with an LIR Light Industry and Research General Plan designation and is subject to Title 19 development standards. It is also located within Area 1, the design district of Appendix F Interim Downtown Las Vegas Master Plan area. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing inline multi-tenant building on the subject site and construct two buildings which will function as a warehouse and a tavern and a banquet facility. The owner of the properties plans to subdivide the sites into two parcels at a later time. The existing liquor establishment tavern use on the subject site is non-conforming and was considered abandoned on August 23rd of 2014. The applicant has been granted extensions of time pursuant to Title 1914 annually to maintain the use. Both of the proposed uses for the warehouse distribution center and banquet facility uses are listed as permitted in the M industrial zone. The proposed development conforms to all Title 19 requirements and aligns with the City of Las Vegas downtown master plan. It is also compatible with the existing development in the surrounding area and the overall vision of the design district, which is characterized by the mixture of commercial services. Please note that staff has added the following additional condition of approval, which states approval of this site development plan review does not constitute approval of a sexually oriented business in accordance with Title 1912. Please note that there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please step forward and give your name for the record.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners. My name is Jim DiFiore of DiFiore Consulting and Business Services, and I'm here representing the applicant, Industrial Road 244-02497 LLC. Abraham Asil is the manager of that particular LLC, and unfortunately, he called me this morning, and he resides in California, and he took ill yesterday, and out of caution, he decided not to come to Las Vegas today for this particular meeting. And unfortunately, I don't have any visuals to present to the commission, but I would like to say that we support all the conditions that staff has provided the commission, and we will abide by them in moving forward with this project. As you may or may not know, since mid-1970s, this site has been a sexually oriented business, and up until 2014, it was in operation with a little break in between around 2007. The owner, Mr. Asil, does now want to go forward with the liquor use, and he wants to offer a banquet facility or an event center for it to be leased out. He does not intend to be the owner-operator. He will lease it out, and he also will lease out the warehouse building as well. So that is his intent as of this point, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if I can, but we'd like to move forward with this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public here wish to be heard? Seeing none, anything on the end? Thank you, Mr. Scott. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think it fits with the location being on industrial, and I have no other comments.
In your motion, can we just make sure that the added condition that staff indicated that's been added, that is accepted?
Sir, did you hear the added condition that staff read into the record?
Yes, I did.
Do you agree with that?
I do.
Thank you. I would make a motion on item 45, SDR 78584. I'd move to approve, subject to the added condition by staff.
Heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 46, SDR 78599, for the, you want to give your staff report?
My apologies, I got ahead of us. That item is final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Item 46, SDR 78599, for the possible action on request for a major amendment to a previously approved site development plan review, SDR 76704, for a proposed parking lot and site reconfiguration with a 16,121 square foot decrease in commercial space with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements at 400 South Decatur Boulevard. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the redesign of the subject site allows for increased landscaping, efficient on-site mobility, and better aligns to the commercial portion of the site to the Decatur Boulevard commercial corridor. Due to the large and unusual shape of the subject site, addition of affordable housing and use of solar panel carports and infill nature of the project, along with the increased amount of trees to mitigate landscape waivers, staff finds that the proposed landscaping to be appropriate for the area and recommends approval of the waivers of landscaping. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the site development plan review subject to conditions. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good evening. My name's Bob Gronauer, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. I'm here representing George Dukakis and Nevada Han. You may be familiar with this application or this piece of property. In August of 2019, you as a planning commission did approve this project. The project that you see, as I can show you here on the overhead, it's approximately 19.62 acres. It's divided into two projects here. To the north here, as I'm pointing to you, is the family affordable product. And down here to the south, adjacent to Decatur and Alta, you have the mixed use for the senior housing and commercial uses on the property itself. We appreciate your staff working with us with respect to all the variants, to the waivers that we were requesting for, and those are because we are going through our drainage technical analysis, and there's some adjustments we had to make to the plans itself to reconfigure the site. In doing so, as your staff has pointed out, we are adding more trees. We've reconfigured the open space in here to make it more usable for the project itself. We're ready to rock and roll with this project. Very, very excited. This is an area that needs these type of uses. And with your approval tonight, we'll be ready to kick off the project very soon. So I'm here to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Anybody from public wish to be heard? Seeing none here, Mr. Scott. Seeing none online, I'll close it and turn it over to the Commissioner. Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would note for the record that I previously abstained in August when this matter was before us because my mother-in-law was working with one of the project partners. She no longer works for them, so I'm comfortable moving or voting on this matter and offering my comments. The requested changes are not significant enough that I'm concerned that this is changing the nature of the project. There were public meetings held prior to Planning Commission that involved the councilman. There were people there that came out and spoke in favor of the project and against the project, but we're not here to redecide whether this project should move forward or not. We're just talking about these minor, relatively minor changes. And after reviewing them and speaking with the applicant, I'm comfortable supporting these changes. So unless there's any further comment, I would move to approve item 46 SDR 78599.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. Mr. Scott.
My screen's frozen, so that would be a yay.
That is a yes vote for Mr. Slotman, and that motion carries.
And that item is final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you very much, and it's good to see all of your smiling faces. I've been cooped up with 4 teenagers all day, so it's good to see someone else before 4 kids screaming and yelling all day. So have a good one. I hope to see you another next month at your next planning commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 48, citizens' participation. This is open at this time. Does anybody wish to be heard? Seeing none, anything online? All right, motion to adjourn.